Senator Cramer.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you, Governor, for being here and for your very good testimony. And I wanted to say amen several times, but instead I'll just focus a question or two on what I thought were a couple of the highlights, and frankly, highlights of the legislation. You know, I've never been a governor, although there have been several in the room today already. But I was a state regulator, and one of my greatest frustrations in regulating at the state level federal rules and laws was when the federal government would try to impose its mediocrity on North Dakota's excellence. You've spoken to the challenge and probably the greatest inhibitor to success, and I deem success, at least in part, to getting species delisted. I mean, we're looking at over, what, 2,300 species and plants on the list today. Since 1973, only 60 have gotten off the list. So my measure of success, I think, would be delisting. I think one of the highlights of the legislation for me, and you pointed this out, is of course the prohibition on litigation or federal lawsuits or lawsuits in federal court during that state period, that period of after the delisting or after success, in my view, that state monitoring period. I find that really critical. I find it as common sense. But the argument against it, of course, is that, oh, we can't do that because the citizens have to have a venue. And I think back to my days as a North Dakota regulator, and Wyoming is very similar to North Dakota in lots of ways, other than the mountains and the grizzly bears. But and I think, gee, who do the citizens have the greatest access to, if not their state legislatures, their state governors, their state regulators? And I would just ask, I would think it's similar in Wyoming. I mean, do you have pretty good access to good people, whether they be landowners, conservationists? In most cases, they're the same people, the same stakeholder groups.
Mr. Chairman, Senator Cramer, I think you speak exactly correctly. I think citizens have the best access to state agencies. I think that state agencies have people on the ground that work directly with landowners. And I think the state involvement that this particular bill promotes is absolutely essential to any working solution. The point you made about the federal government's sometimes one-size-fits-all challenges just don't make sense on the ground. So I think having states involved, citizens involved early makes for a good dialogue. That's absolutely essential. And then again, from the suing kind of provisions, what's essential is that we talk about what's happened, not necessarily what might happen or what you didn't consider when you were thinking about that. We can continually, the perfect sometimes is the enemy of the good, and the good thing that this Endangered Species Act did was to promote the delisting of animals.
For sure, and of course it also encourages voluntary participation in that effort, and Wyoming, like North Dakota, has a lot of volunteers. Again, landowners, environmentalists, professionals, and users of the land. In case of federal lands where there's a lot of multiple use, they all care about the same thing, and I think want the same outcome. But I would think they would find it rather demoralizing to continually work to get a critter delisted, but only to have their success punished in the courts.
Mr. Chairman, Senator Cramer, I think it is demoralizing talking to some of my landowner neighbors, absolutely, for a number of reasons.
Well, thank you again for appearing. Thanks for your care about this and for your excellent testimony. And I might just say, Mr. Chairman, that a lot of people are wondering what's going to be the main issue when you talk to President Trump's next nominee to the Supreme Court of the United States. Mine is going to be this issue. That is, what is the proper role of states with our federal government in our federalist system? Because I think we've lost track of it for decades, and that erosion needs to be stopped and I think reversed. And I think the Endangered Species Act is one of many exhibits. So thank you.
Well, thank you so much, Senator Cramer.